Deirdre Waterman talking to you once again. Hoping everybody is obeying the social distancing and is staying well and safe during this COVID-19 crisis that we have given you daily briefings about. I come to you today to do a presentation on a different matter, however. The business of the city is still going on in the backdrop behind this things that we're doing for coronavirus. And I want to tell you about an issue that is now pending before the council, which is of grave concern to the administration because the consequences of such an imprudent financial action could not only be devastating for the city, devastating for the long fought financial stability that we have now gained back with the city. And we think it is my duty and the duty of this administration to let you know, the citizens of Pontiac, what the consequences of such an action might be if indeed certain members of the council are able to pass it through. This was an initiative that was introduced by Council President Kermit Williams, who said it is his initiative, and it was discussed last night. We did have a presentation to present on behalf of the administration, but it was rushed through. We were not able to give all the data and the documents that were important to understand the severity of the consequences of such an action. So we thought it was important to do a full broadcast, and that's what we are prepared to do today. I have several presenters who are due to talk about this situation, and it relates to the Phoenix Center. As many of you know, for the Phoenix Center, which is one of the mascots of the city, it sits in the middle of our city, is the entrance to our downtown, and has been a part of the basic infrastructure of the city for a long time. Citizens spent over the years over $60 million for the construction of the Phoenix Center garage, and it does supply the parking we need in order to develop some of the surrounding buildings that are now unoccupied or vacant. A lot of the investors say they are waiting for this to be solved for the city in a permanent way in order to make the investment to our city and to help our downtown and the city itself grow. So that's why we're bringing this to you today. When I started as mayor, I confronted the fact that the emergency manager had caused this lawsuit to be brought against the city regarding the demolition of the Phoenix Center. At that time, because the city was in such dire financial straits, we were due to lose the Phoenix Center and also be charged possibly with a lot of penalties and liens that were on the Phoenix Center. Fortunately, the city was granted the opportunity to have another mediation. And with that mediation, it was a win-win situation such that we brought a settlement agreement to the city council, which the city council did sign off on November 18th. They had 24 months to fulfill the terms of the settlement agreement. We are now 19 months into that 24 months. And we are concerned as an administration that the council has not made the decisions to be able to move forward to complete the terms of the settlement agreement. The partial solution for that that was offered at the council meeting was, we feel, a very imprudent financial decision, and we're going to use this presentation to show you why. We want this to be a win-win for the citizens of Pontiac. We have offered a number of alternatives for the way that council can fulfill the financing of this so that we not only keep this as a property, but are responsible owners. And many of you have asked me when we can use the amphitheater again. You remember the days when we had festivals and music events. And we have spent so much money and time in developing that Phoenix Center, which is at the center of a lot of the transportation and is the hub for our downtown. So with that, I'm going to introduce several speakers who are going to talk about the prospects for the Phoenix Center. I'm going to tell you more of where we are in the phase of that fulfillment of the settlement agreement and why or why not certain options are prudent or not prudent for the city of Pontiac. What this means to you is that there are certain dangers for every one of us as citizens of Pontiac if we default on the settlement agreement that the court has given us an opportunity to fulfill. We want this to be a win-win situation for the city of Pontiac, and we want you to be aware of what the choices are so that you can be know that we're being transparent and being frank, but we have to be sincere and we have to tell you what the realities are. And that's what we want to do today. For this part of the discussion, I want to introduce someone who is known to all of the downtown investors in Pontiac. He has been invested in Pontiac and had the vision for what downtown Pontiac could be. He has brought in a lot of investors and a lot of people who are interested in the development of our downtown and indeed our city, and knows a lot about the development of this whole Phoenix Center issue and how important successful resolution of this issue is for the development of the city as a whole. And with that, I would like to introduce Bob Wan, owner of Pike Street Properties and a number of other investment groups that believe that the city of Pontiac can be successful and has been a great part of the driving force for economic development. Bob, would you care to weigh in on this issue at hand about the Phoenix Center?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm honored to be on the call this morning. I'm sorry I can't attend by camera. So had the good fortune the last couple of weeks of seeing a lot of small towns across America here. And one of the things that stands out to me is the availability of parking and the need for parking. We learned that when we had DPZ and the Congress of New Urbanism come and study the Phoenix Center a couple of years ago, Mayor, under your direction. And we were able to come up with an amazing future look at the city. And the Phoenix Center is integral in that, not just as a physical asset for concerts on the roof or for the need for parking, which is absolutely imperative for commerce to flourish in a downtown. The famed urbanist and city planner Bob Gibbs said that the Phoenix Center parking was one of the key instruments to spurring real development in downtown, and it truly is, not just from the asset of 2,600 cars that would give us sufficient parking for any events, including Pontiac, future concerts in downtown, but little things like the nightclubs and even the office that is planned and looked at for the downtown. The Phoenix Center is essential to getting it turned on. But even bigger than that, I've been invested now in downtown Pontiac for coming up on 8 years, and have had the good fortune of going as far away as Israel to China with Matt Gibb on an Oakland County mission to talk to investors about investing in Pontiac. And when people come to town, and we've literally had hundreds of people now, from international people to local developers who are all capable and interested, and they see all of the benefits of our beautiful historic downtown. But the question that they ask me is, what's going on with that giant Phoenix Center? And so hundreds of developers have told me now that until they see some action on the Phoenix Center, it's symbolic of whether or not the downtown's ready for development. Until the parking assets are in place, it's a basic infrastructure need, and it's symbolic. Until the city can figure out what to do with the white elephant sitting in the middle of our downtown, other big developers are afraid to make large investments there. And we've watched now several giant opportunities disappear to the corners of Pontiac, Shore Mortgage, or other larger opportunities for whole corporate campuses that would have come to downtown and brought thousands of jobs right into our city center that have decided not to because the Phoenix Center isn't fixed yet. So from a downtown property owner's perspective, it's absolutely imperative, it's needed, and it's something that clearly we need to be actioning on in order to see any real development post-pandemic here in downtown. So I appreciate the moment to say that, but I encourage everybody on this call to move swiftly and boldly to a solution to this ongoing and lingering problem that's so important to all of us in the downtown district. So thank you again, Mayor, for the time.
And we thank you so much for those comments, Bob. You said it very articulately and with the passion that I know you've had for the belief in the city of Pontiac. We have a whole group here now that's here giving this it all in terms of getting it implemented, going from the settlement agreement to now the implementation, to now council's responsibility to make sure that they can fulfill the terms of the settlement agreement and are at the financing stage now. So we thank you for all the effort, for all the people that you have brought to Pontiac with your ambassadorship, and we hope we'll have some good news and some progress to report to you in the near future. Thank you. I'm very happy that our next presenter is here with us today. He is Vince DeLeonardis, president of AUK, a homegrown company who has their headquarters right here in Pontiac, who we chose as the owner's representative for this project. Council did approve our selection of AUK to be the owner's representative, which means that they're the ones who tie the whole program together, they're the project managers. And AUK was approved back in May of 2019. So Vince has been working with this project ever since. And I want him to give you a sense of where we are in the timeline and the scope of services for this Phoenix Center development. Vince, we're happy to have you here. Thank you for coming. And we'll give you the floor to describe other things I've talked about.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We're very proud to be representing the city of Pontiac on the renovation restoration of the Phoenix Center Garage. AUK is a longtime Pontiac business, was very proud to, I guess, put in place its commitment of our new office building, which we occupied in May of 2018. One of the reasons we are in Pontiac is we saw the potential. We appreciated all the support that we had received through the mayor's office, along with city council, that really allowed us to feel good about our decision to be here in Pontiac. You know, with that, it's created, I believe, a lot of passion that we have to serve the citizens of Pontiac by restoring that parking deck. The potential of creating parking and ongoing development, you know, we saw it demonstrated even with our small project, where we saw redevelopment in our area. With the Phoenix Center restoration, that will be exponential, bringing jobs to the city and enhancing the downtown area that we as a business being located in Pontiac are really looking for to help attract new employees, you know, to our company. So we were very humbled and very pleased to have been selected last May by the city of Pontiac, supported by city council, to act as both the program manager and the construction manager. Since that time, we worked with the city to create a request for proposals for AE services that went out for competitive pricing and bidding, and also for their project approaches. And IDS was recommended and then approved by the city. And it was a great selection, because since they've been on board, we established a timeline for the project, and every one of those dates has been met. And what we're really looking forward to is being able to continue meeting these milestones to when we can start construction. So most recently, bringing IDS on in March, we had our kickoff meeting on March 11th. We established some dates for code review. We can take a look at the milestone schedule. They'll help guide us. And with that, their preparation of a code review, in early April, that allowed them to define and help understand what the scope of the job would be, and then the important milestone of their schematic design package that was delivered on time on April 10th. That the schematic design package then allows AUK to start an important part of our services, and we believe one of the reasons why we were selected by the city is to prepare an estimate of cost. That way, decisions can be made on the scope of the work, because we know there are essential items that are required to meet the city's commitment to the settlement agreement. We also know there are those critical items that will allow that parking deck, that structure, to operate in an efficient manner for the long-term benefit of the city of Pontiac and for its residents, helping to reduce those costs or keep those costs down to continue its operating. And then allow also the pricing of items that can be considered by our city leaders that they believe will enhance the usability and the asset of the Phoenix Center, and particularly, say, for instance, the plaza area. So with that, looking at our timeline, it's our plan to present to the city leaders come early May 1st, the plan, and then city council meeting on May 5th, so that they can understand and digest and help provide that direction to meet the obligations of the city, as well as to take care of the citizens regarding reducing costs for the long term of the Phoenix structure, and then allowing it to serve as a catalyst for the development of all those downtown businesses, to see that potential of bringing jobs to the city that we're so proud to be part of. We expect to be able to prepare bid packages so that come the end of May, we'll be out soliciting bids for the structural repairs as well as the elevator replacements that are clearly defined in a settlement agreement, and then continue on to subsequent packages that will allow for the long lead items to be purchased, the electrical gear, generators, and then followed up by the pricing and the bids for the install of mechanical, electrical systems, as well as the architectural items that are required for the Phoenix Center and its structure, its function. So with that, we're very excited. We see the job moving forward. We see important timelines and dates being established, those dates being met. And then we look forward to the start of construction in July to allow the city to achieve its commitment to Ottawa Towers, and more importantly, to the citizens of Pontiac. So we're very proud to be part of that. So thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Vince, and we look forward to seeing the presentation to the council and the city as a whole on May 5th, which is the date that IDS is scheduled to come to present their findings and their schematic drawings for the city of Pontiac's Phoenix Center. Is that correct?
Yes.
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 So for those of you who want to access the city council meeting, that will be on your website, as well as the usual means for posting that. We invite the public particularly to come in and partake of this presentation. It's going to be most illustrative. We're going to devote most of the whole council meeting for that priority agenda item, so that you can see what the schematics are, what the plans are. And also you can participate in public comment if you choose to do so on this most important issue for the city of Pontiac. Thank you, Vince. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. And again, I'd like to state on behalf of IDS and ALC that we understand the importance and the responsibility that we've been given to define this scope, to allow the city to achieve its responsibilities, and then also to do it in the most cost-effective manner. And so we're excited to see this process continuing moving forward with the support of all parts of the city. Thank you.
Great. As we continue with this presentation, you will see practically the whole executive staff is here today because of the priority importance of this particular issue. Someone who can describe the actual cost settlement agreement terms and the severe impact that it would have for the resolution that is now under consideration by council to take millions of dollars out of our surplus fund in order to pay cash for a certain part of the settlement agreement. So he's here to explain that to us. It is someone that is known to many of you in Pontiac. He is now working as one of the legal attorneys handling real estate and economic development matters for the city of Pontiac. And with that, I would like to turn the floor to Matt Gibb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Really pleased to be part of this this presentation, and it gives us an opportunity to really lay out the facts behind what your office has been trying to accomplish now for nearly 2 years. For those that are watching and learning about the process, there's been so many different things said in the public and said at the council level and other places that have really just caused confusion. It is an enormous project and so important for the city of Pontiac. And I know that you'll hear throughout the presentation from local business leaders imploring the importance of this to the real estate community, to the investment community, from those that have joined on with the approval of council to guide the project and lead the project. And so what I really want to do for this presentation is walk through the aspects of what really truly is required of the city to meet the terms of the settlement agreement that it reached, that the administration and the council approved and executed. And that settlement agreement has become a judgment against the city. And so I want to start with that clarity. Some people have said it's a contract. Some people have said it's just an obligation. No, it's just a settlement agreement. We could go back and talk to somebody and maybe change it. But the terms within that document are very clear and very binding. And so I'd like to just walk through briefly. I'm going to pull up a screen here that allows us to start to really truly understand what we're talking about. What is the actual cost of the Phoenix Center settlement agreement and the severe impact and risk on the general fund from the current approach that's being taken by council to meet this? And that's really the context of this agreement. So what does the settlement agreement obligate the city to? There's been a significant amount of talk at council level and other places in the public that really truly is just not accurate. There's been a statement that says that there's a $6 million obligation for maintenance and improvement to the Phoenix Center, and that's all the city has to commit to. They're true, or they're accurate in one aspect, that there is an obligation of up to $6 million. The language of the document is very clear. The city must pay up to $6 million to do all maintenance improvements necessary to bring and keep the Phoenix Center up to Michigan Building and Code, and that is for a period over the next 10 years. That's not the singular obligation to the city, and I think this is so important for the public to understand when they're discussing this with other members of the public and when they're discussing this with their good council members in their districts. That is not the only obligation. In fact, it's probably the smaller of the obligations that the city is required to do. The document says that the city must also, it has language that says, however that, which legal terms means this is in addition to that $6 million obligation. The city must also commit all necessary electrical, lighting, elevator, and serious structural repair to the Phoenix Center. And the city must do that by November 1st of 2020. This is an additional obligation. This is the work that you'll hear from other professionals that are helping us on this project, IDS and AUK and others. This is the work that they're doing to create very certain economic numbers for the city to understand and deal with. But it's so important to be clear that these are two separate but binding obligations on the city. Now, what's interesting in this is when I say that the city must do this by November 1st, the language of the agreement says 24 months. So you might say, well, why hasn't this started within the last 24 months? It's been a frustration to the administration and certainly to the cities, myself as a business owner in this city, that there was delays. And so the retention of AUK happened in May of 2019, but the city council did not approve engaging with IDS as the architectural firm that would create several elements, the schematic drawings, the details of the cost estimates, so that we would have some finality to this. That happened approximately 5 weeks ago, and we are running forward to meet these two very, very binding obligations now that we have finally broken through that delay and have moved forward. So what does that obligation tell us? What are they trying to accomplish? If we take the $6 million of maintenance and we just assume that that's going to be for maintenance and code repair, the second obligation that's so critical is required work. These are all the things that we have to do. We have to replace tension cabling and concrete panels. We have to replace storm drainage systems and the plumbing, the heating and cooling and the mechanical systems, the water system. All of that was either damaged or more significantly, completely destroyed by vandalism over the years. To meet the terms of the requirements of the agreement, we have to do this as a city. These are not avoidable. These are in addition to all of those maintenance obligations that the council and others think that, well, we can just give a certain amount of money and that'll be good enough. It does not cover these very, very required and important structural elements to this agreement. The elevator, the corroded doors, the roofing systems, if all of this is not completed, the fire system, if none of this is completed in a holistic approach, then the whole agreement fails. And if it fails, the city will be in default of its required obligations under that agreement that is recorded as a judgment against the city. So what does that mean? What is the financial? We hear over and over, well, we never get an accurate number. These numbers were presented to council in October of 2018, and they are good and solid, accurate numbers. The first one is, if we were only to complete the base obligations under the settlement agreement, meaning all the things that I just showed you, including the maintenance obligations for code, what's that mean? How much would that realistically cost us? There's 4 key areas. Remember the language that I showed you, that the settlement agreement that is a judgment against the city says you must complete structural repairs, mechanical repairs, electrical repairs to the Phoenix. Those costs have been broken out. If we do all of that base work, it's $14.6 million is an estimated obligation to the city. That's a very real number. It is not a number that we can take lightly. It's not a number that we can say, if we do a partial satisfaction of that it works. It doesn't work that way, I'm sorry. This is an obligation that must be met in full by the city. Any attorney, any other advocate, any other consultant that would tell council, the executive office, or anyone else that, well, no, you can only do part of that, they are not telling the truth, and they're not following good conscious advocacy in this. This number is set at $14.6 million. What if we do more? Meaning, what are some of the other things? We have a plaza on top with a beautiful amphitheater that also needs rooftop repair and improvements. If the city chooses not to do that, could they still meet the settlement agreement? Well, it would be a question, and it's possible, but why would the city invest 14 or 16 or $19 million and not actually restore the working functionality of the entire project? We all enjoyed beautiful events at that facility. The budget for the settlement agreement to meet the obligations that's been put forth by the mayor and the executive administration is not to create lighting and concerts. It's to create functionality. And if we include the functionality of the amphitheater, we are estimated a cost of $16.5 million. This is a very real number again. If we do the minimum requirement in the most cost-effective way to meet the obligations, to meet the settlement agreement and restore functionality so that the city can use it again and make money off that facility again as an asset, this is the cost estimate that we're really talking about. These are the accurate numbers to meet. Now, the good news is, and I'm going to wrap up my presentation, Mayor, and allow our good interim finance director, Erwin Williams, to jump in and talk about the impact fiscally of the idea of meeting this financial obligation. The good news is, as you'll hear elsewhere in this presentation from Vince DeLeonardis from AUK, there's been so much work done in the last several weeks since council finally stopped the delay and moved forward and allowed us to engage IDS and get this moving. In the first part of May, we're going to know, is 16.5 million the accurate number? We will know that with very certainty. And people that would say, oh, you keep giving us different numbers. Well, we've finally been given the tools to get you the final numbers. And so we'll have that the first part of May. All of the experts, myself included, know that we're likely to fall around this number. And so we know that it's a big obligation. Part of this presentation to you is regarding what is the solution? How does the city meet this obligation? It's a lot of money. The council has looked at a pathway of saying, well, maybe if we just spent part of our general fund balance, which is only about $7 million that could be allocated to this, wouldn't that just be enough? And I will tell you as an attorney, as your advocate, that no, we would still be required to find the additional $9 million if it's this number. Where would that come from? It's really imprudent. It's really irresponsible budget practices from a holistic approach to not look at this and say, why don't we solve the whole thing at once? Let's get the numbers from IDS. Let's understand what our financial position is, and let's do this all at once. Let's solve this all at once. Maybe it's getting bonds. Maybe it's some other way that we seek a combination of certain things, but let's solve this all at once. So the advocacy has been, don't do something irresponsible. Allow us to do our work. We've been working hard for the several weeks that I've been engaged, Mayor, to get it to this point. And so I'm just going to summarize and then turn this over to Finance Director Williams. The obligations to the city are twofold. $6 million for maintenance and code improvements, and upwards of $10 million of additional work that would be structural, replacing the electrical, getting the lights to work again in the tunnel that goes under the Phoenix Center, making the security provisions work, improving access to the garage, fixing damaged parts that might actually fall on people. All of those things are additional work. The obligation to the city will be in the range of $16 million. And I just implore everybody, the public included, to raise their voice to say, let's solve this thing with one package and not try to do some gadget irresponsible budget practice. And so with that, I'm going to move to the next slide, but Mayor, I'm going to stop sharing this so that our good finance director can give some introductory remarks. And then Mr. Williams, I'll pull that back up for you to walk through those slides.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Erwin Williams. I'm the interim finance director for the city of Pontiac. I would like a few minutes to discuss with you the impact of depleting our general fund balance for the Phoenix Center settlement. Matt, could you please pull up my slides? All right, the city council passed a policy that requires us to keep 15% of our budgeted expenditures as a minimum fund balance. So as you can see on the screen here, that 5.994 million of our fund balance must be maintained as a minimum fund balance. We had an opening fund balance at the beginning of the year of 12.5 million. Then we're estimating down below that 1.2 million will be the estimated excess of revenue over expenditures in 2019-20. However, that is just an estimate. And this estimate was done before the advent of COVID-19. We at this point do not know what our estimated revenues will end up as of the end of June. And furthermore, the tremendous impact it will have on our revenues for the following fiscal budgeted year. So this 7.7 million number is only our best estimate, but the actual number may be significantly less as of the end of June. The total, can you go to my next slide, please?
Oh, hold on. Sorry, Mr. Williams. There we go.
Okay, so there's three points I want to bring up on the impact of depleting our unassigned balance. The first that I just discussed is that because of COVID-19, we really don't know what that final number is going to be at the end of June. It may be 7.7 available, it may be 6.5, it may be 8. We don't know what the impact is going to be. Second of all, depleting fund balance would be fiscally irresponsible at this point. Our unassigned fund balance would be severely impaired by over $7 million. What would happen next year? If we had a loss next year, or if monies had to be transferred to other funds to cover the expenditures in other funds as we normally have to do, we could very easily be in violation of this minimum 15% of fund balance requirement. Third of all, we've all discussed the numbers. The numbers have, the total impact as of when I looked at the study was 19.1 million. Even if we commit the $7 million towards the total project, we still have the question of where's the other $11 million going to come from to fund the balance of the project. $7 million is only going to be a patch on what the total requirement is going to be. And the residents of Pontiac have to understand that sooner or later, we're going to have to address this question. Next slide, please. So we can see that if we took our opening fund balance and what we're anticipating we're going to earn to the end of this year, and we paid the entire $19.3 million, we would be in a deficit position. The city would be out of money. And this is an impossible situation. Next slide, please. You can see how well the city has done over the years. From 2015 through 2019, our unassigned fund balance has increased by 25.87%, which is excellent. The only dip we had was in 2018, and that was due to the $3.1 million we committed towards the Pyrex Center. If we transfer the $7.7 million, we would be depleting our unassigned fund balance by 56.41%, which would leave us in a position where we would have minimal funds available to cover all of our general fund activities and to protect us in case there were unexpected expenditures next year, either towards, the COVID-19. I'm sorry, not so much additional expenditures, but to cover the anticipated shortfall of revenue. Right now, we're anticipating that our revenues next year will decrease by approximately $1.3 million because of reduced revenue sharing and income tax revenues coming in. And on top of that, other expenditures we may have to either cover COVID-19 or other unanticipated expenditures by other funds would not be covered, and we would be in violation of our 15% minimum fund balance requirement, which put us in an untenable position. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We appreciate your comments, your frank discovery, and all the work you have done to make sure that the people have a clear understanding of the financial implications of imprudent financial decisions. We thought it was important to bring this before the public because this matter is now pending before council. We didn't have enough time to address it at the council meeting, which occurred on April 21st. And so that's why we thought it was of enough importance that we wanted to have a broader public view of what the implications were of this matter so that people could be informed and could weigh in on it if they so choose to do that at the next council meeting or to your council person. So as we said, there was discussion. We didn't have enough time to bring in all these issues. This has been a long-going process from the time that council did sign the settlement agreement in November of 2018. The 24 months that under the settlement agreement, we had fulfilled the terms of the settlement agreement, which meant the construction, as has been described in the settlement agreement, will be over November 1st, 2020. And although administration has presented a number of different options and how this can be financed, council has yet to come up with a solution for that, which is their role as a legislative body. It was getting close enough to the timeline that we thought it was important to advise the public of the situation, to give you frank answers and questions to your question. I know this has been a long process, and so we're taking the time to explain that. So that we also know that it's important for us under our obligation as administration to also warn people of the ramifications of a default. There is one councilwoman who suggested that maybe we should default. That sent shockwaves through most of us who heard that. So we think the public needs to be fully informed, fully aware. I've always been transparent, and I want you to have the full information, and that is why we're doing this presentation today. We will continue to try to inform the public. We are now constructing a frequently asked questions document, which we have made available in limited amounts, but we are going to do that for the whole city. We think that's very important. So Alexandra Riley, wave your hand up there, Alexandra, so they can see the part that you're playing on this particular project. So that is being finalized as we speak. We are, as always, are available here to answer your questions. We are working hard for you, even in the face of COVID-19. The business of the city goes on. And one of those important issues is a resolution of this Phoenix Center situation for the city of Pontiac. And with that, thank you for your attention. This is going to be shown not only on our cable broadcast network, but also on our YouTube channel, as well as on our Facebook pages. Feel free to stay tuned in as this develops. We want this to turn out to be the win-win for Pontiac that we know it can be. And with that, I thank all of you for your support and belief and investment in Pontiac. Stay well, stay tuned. We'll continue to present this informational sessions to you on a regular basis here in the city of Pontiac. This is Mayor Deirdre Waterman. Thank you for allowing me to be your mayor. Thank you for allowing us to be of service to this community. Go Pontiac.
Thank you.